What's up, Airsofters? With the new DD5s coming out, I thought it would be a really cool idea to kind of accessorize and build one for myself here in the studio. There are two different versions of the DD5s coming out, the DD5V3 and the DD5 SBR, which is a shortened, kind of optimized for shorter engagement distances version. And being that I've never really built or accessorized a DMR, I thought the DD5V3 was the perfect opportunity to throw on some longer range accessories to show you guys what it might look like if you built one of these as a dedicated DMR setup for yourselves. Full disclosure, I haven't tested any of these parts on this platform yet, so we're gonna find out together if it all comes together. Let's get into it. Ooh, it locks. Ooh, it releases. So oftentimes when you're accessorizing something like this, it's kind of an exercise in, well, where do I start? And the first thing I want to start with is turning this into more of a DMR platform. Now, I love the included furniture. I love the rubberized texture on both the stock and the grip, but I'm trying to customize here. I want to make it look a little bit different, and I want to exchange this for a more DMR-oriented stock. So let's start there. To remove the stock, you're going to pull up on this tab right here, pull down on it, and then pull it down at an angle to get it to release. And it'll stop, and then there's a little bit more you can pinch it, and that'll release the pin that's on the inside that is the locking pin. A Magpul PRS light. Now this is a real Magpul PRS light, so hopefully this will mount to our buffer tube situation. Don't worry about the packaging. Hopefully this will just mount to our buffer tube situation without a whole lot of fuss. Okay, first things first, one of the reasons I chose the PRS stock is it still uses the buffer tube, I think. Magpul uses American sizes or SAE, but I'm gonna use a metric wrench because that's all I have on the table. Boom, boom, this comes out, I think, like that. This drops out the other side. This comes off, and then I think goes on here. All right, so let's see if we can just get this on here. Yoink, look at that. Do we like that? Oh, we like that. Oh, that's good, that's good. Okay, and this should just pinch the buffer tube. So this shouldn't just come sliding off. And just like that, we've got a stock. I think it looks really, really cool. Now, it is worth noting though that because this is like a real stock and it has an adjustable cheek riser and kind of like a shiftable stock pad, there isn't a direct access for battery storage right out of the gate. I think that you could kind of remove the cheek riser and maybe cut a slot in this and a slot in the buffer tube so that you could, like, you know, install and remove the battery very quickly if you wanted to like modify it with a Dremel. But also, since the whole thing comes off with kind of one Allen key, I'm kind of the opinion that just bring the Allen key you need, undo it, slide that off, put your battery in the buffer tube, and put this back on. Let's try swapping the grip. I grabbed two of these grips. One is the EMG, I think the Delta motor grip, which I really, really like. It's super comfortable, and I also like the quick access. However, I haven't used one of these Umbrella Corp licensed ones from EMG, and I like the more vertical angle, so I'm gonna unpackage this and we'll try this first. All right, so, yeah, I think that's gonna look really cool. Trying not to cover the camera so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, so thankfully the grip we're swapping to is almost identical in terms of how it attaches, so that's cool. Okay, then what I'm gonna do here is remove my motor connections, keeping in mind kind of how they're oriented. So I've got the negative in front, it's kind of folded over itself. So I'm gonna wanna put it back in the same orientation. But to get the motor grip off, I'm gonna need to straighten these out. And then our positive over here, kind of same deal, tucked on the back side of the motor. I use kind of an Allen wrench, or you can use a pick to kind of lift up on the motor itself. And we'll pull that out of there. Set that off to the side. Now looking down inside the motor grip, which you won't be able to see, but I'll tell you, there are two Phillips head screws. You're gonna wanna use a screwdriver to remove those. Here's another little trick for you. If you need to magnetize your screwdriver, put your motor on there, and then you can pull up your screw. Aha, science. Okay. If you've never installed or replaced your motor grip before, you'll notice there are a couple holes in the top here. The two large holes on either side here, that's for your motor wiring. And then depending on the layout of the screws on your gearbox, the four smaller holes correspond with 4 holes on the gearbox itself. You can see here. Now, 90% of the time, only 2 of the holes are used, and they're usually diagonal of each other. So the ones that were used kind of out of the box on this one were these 2 here. So that's what I'm going to be aiming to use on my replacement grip as well. Threading the motor connections back in, like that. And then we're going to follow the grooves on the gearbox with the grooves on our motor grip. We're going to slide that on like so. Make sure it all fits. Make sure our holes align visually as I'm looking down the grip. Then I'm going to reinstall my screws. That looks pretty good. It feels pretty good. I like that increased vertical angle. I am noticing that the factory grip has this really nice bevel that kind of puts it back in line with the thickness of the body. I think if I had more time, I would like to take a file and file the front profile of this grip down to match that so that you don't have that lip. But that's totally something you can do with a file and fine tune the fit as you're doing this. Now we're going to reinstall the motor again, remembering that I want the red or positive wire to correspond with the red post on the motor. So when I reinstall it, I want the red post at the rear. Okay, and then I'm going to try to replicate what I saw when I was taking the motor out and realigning those tabs by folding the wiring over on itself and reinstalling the spade, the female spade receivers on the spade terminals. Then grabbing my motor plate, and I'm going to start by backing the motor plate all the way off, and then I can make adjustments in the future to height. Okay, we'll reinstall our screw. Notice I'm keeping pressure on the base plate while I'm tightening the screw, and that's because the motor is under spring tension and it wants to lift the base plate away. And so to make sure that I'm keeping the motor seated properly, I'm just holding down the base plate until I can get the screw far enough in that I can just tighten things up. Don't have to be terribly tight. You don't have to torque the hell out of it, just get it tight. And that takes care of our stock and our grip, which I am very pleased with. So next up, because this is a DMR, we're gonna want a more stable shooting platform at the front. What better way to do that than with a bipod? And since I'm already putting some Magpul accessories on here, let's stick with a Magpul bipod. So you have to kind of play around with the heights of these a little so that you can get the M-LOK tabs to kind of sit in suspension so that you can tighten them, because otherwise the included kind of Loctite that comes on the Magpul accessories is too tight to really do by hand. Now technically there is a torque spec for these, but this is Airsoft. We don't have any recoil to worry about. That'll give us a nice stable platform with which to do all of our designated marksman rifling. Okay, next things next, we're gonna mount, in my opinion, this pretty cool looking Strike Industries grip here. Now, in order to do that, I need to lift this up so I can get a feel for what feels good with my arm length. Right, that feels pretty good. Now, of course, I'm building this rifle for me, so your arm length may dictate a different choice of where to mount a vertical grip or a hand stop like this. This is where I'm choosing to mount it because I'm the one who's gonna be using it. Yeah, that seems like a good, allows me to get nice and square. We may end up backing this off one spot, but we'll see. In the meantime, the bipod makes things really easy to work on. I can just set it down and not worry about the rifle falling over. Next up, we've got a replica laser aiming module. Now, these are pressure switchable, but I think I'm gonna go for pressing the button on top. Okay, so I'm gonna take kind of where my hand's gonna naturally fall and make sure that I can reach that easily. That way I can rest my hand, and if I have to drive for it, I can. I think that's the smarter way to go. I think I want to do a dedicated flashlight, but since I'm not doing a pressure switch for this guy, and as a DMR, I probably won't be accessing the flashlight all that often. I think I'm going to forego doing a pressure switch on this as well, and simply rail mount this guy, swapping out for a thumb press tail cap and an M-LOK mount. So let's prep the flashlight first, and we'll change our base. These flashlights are really cool because they come with two different options for mounting. I think kind of in a similar way, I want this as far forward as possible so that I don't accidentally hit it. 1, 2. Yeah. Kind of want to push this farther away so that my pressure switch tail cap, as I'm reaching up here, is kind of out here instead of trying to find the space in here for it. Although, I could mount this on the 45 and get it as close as possible. Maybe that's not the end of the world. So let's go with that instead. And then to mount that, I'm gonna kind of sit it in place here and using the included hex wrench, tighten that down, tighten that down, make sure that we've got both of them with good purchase on the M-lock slot. Just a nice little cinch down. Again, you really don't want to thread lock anything until you're sure you have it exactly where you want it. And then at this point I would install a battery, and we're going to swap the pressure switch tail cap out for a thumb switch tail cap. Like so. So when I need light, I can come up and hit my laser here, or I can drive this forward and use white light when I need it. Okay, we've got the back end where I like it. We've got the front end accessories usable when I need them. I think finally, it wouldn't be a complete DMR without some sort of magnified optic. Now, for budgetary concerns, I've elected to go with an AIM optic. I think for the money, they're pretty good. And for Airsoft, you don't have to worry about them as much as far more expensive glass. And at the ranges that we are focusing on in Airsoft, I think this is an excellent use case for an AIM optic. However, I did splurge a little bit and go with a Daniel Defense mounted optic mount from their Rock and Lock series. And mostly just because, 1, I like the look of it, and 2, it's a Daniel Defense. Why wouldn't you go with the Daniel Defense mount? And you'll need to make sure that whatever optic mount you're selecting has the same diameter. Oftentimes in Airsoft, you will see optic mounts that have like a plastic sleeve to make it compatible with multiple diameters so that they're more universal. The Daniel Defense one that I've chosen here specifically was for 30 millimeter, and this is the 30 millimeter diameter scope. In 1 second, I'll back these off so you don't have to watch me. I wanted to take a quick pause and address something that happens often when you're customizing things, and it's an experience that I'm having right now. So I thought I'd bring you along with me. So I really do like this AIM Sports scope, but you'll notice it has a very large adjustment wheel. Now, what that means is that because I've chosen this really cool Daniel Defense mount, the arms on the mount are not spaced wide enough to make space for that adjustment wheel. 2 things you can do here. You can find a different mount, but I'm really partial to this mount. Or you can find a different optic. So what I've elected to do, swap the optic. And what I've gone for is an actually more affordable primary arms 3-9x44. It also has a 30 millimeter body or tube diameter, and it should work beautifully with our Daniel Defense mount. Let's give it a try. Now let's see if this fits our mount, and it does perfectly. All right, I'll be back in 1 second after I screw all 8 of these in. Now that I've got my optic all mounted, I want to get a good idea for the optic length or the eye relief length when mounting my scope. So I want to make sure that when I'm pulling this up, back this all the way off. So I want to make sure that when I'm mounting this, the eye relief is good, where I'll be normally using it. I think I want it 1 step back. Okay, the nice thing about these DD mounts is that it'll snap right into place. You kind of roll it over the rail and then you tighten it with the included Torx wrench. Yeah, just like that. All right, now I've got my optic mounted. I think it looks incredibly cool, fits the part. Now you might be thinking, you're looking straight into the back of your PEQ or laser aiming module. And that's not the case. Because of the focal length of optics like this, you're actually going to be seeing past this. And even when your thumb is pressing the button, it doesn't interfere with your sight picture. Boop, boop, boop. boop, boop, bad guys everywhere. So no DMR would be complete, in my opinion, without some sort of can on the end. And in order to do that, I've removed the tip, and then I'm going to thread on the base piece for these very cool PWS BDE suppressors. You might have seen me use one of these exact things on my shorty SR25 build. But now that I'm doing a full-size SR25, I think it's perfectly right and at home here as well. I like it. Let's talk about it. And so the build is complete. Well, it's as complete as I'm willing to take it right now. The mission here was to accessorize this into a fully built DMR. Yes, you could of course upgrade the internals, but out of the box, they're pretty darn good. Yes, you could increase your barrel length to go into or extend into the mock suppressor, but I think I'd really like to use a tracer on this, especially if I'm in night games and like, you know, kind of dusk operations. I think that would be really cool. Accessories wise, you guys saw me throw on a couple things like the PRS light stock, which I absolutely love, although I will have to remove the screw and remove the stock to put a battery in, but that's a challenge I'm willing to put up with on a regular basis, especially with how long batteries last these days. I changed out the motor grip to something with a little bit more texture and a vertical profile, so if I am doing prone shooting or extended engagements where I'm operating with a bipod, that vertical angle is going to be a lot better on my wrist. Up top, I've gone with a primary arms optic and DD rock and lock mount. I think it looks super appropriate here. I probably visually would have liked to go with something a little larger diameter in terms of the object lens. That way I could put an ARD on it. But I think out of the box, for the distances you'll be shooting in Airsoft, a 3 to 9x44 like this primary arms is more than enough. Up front, I've gone with a bipod to keep things stable. I've gone with a really cool Strike Industries vertical grip, which does have wire routing if you elect to go with some pressure switches instead of kind of on body buttons, so you can do some wire routing with that grip. Up top, I've gone with a laser aiming module as well as a thumb press flashlight, both of which are CR123 powered and are easily reachable when I'm using kind of that C-clamp style grip, but far away enough that I'm not going to accidentally hit those buttons when I'm in game and give myself away, especially again in low light scenarios. And finally, at the front, I've gone with a PWS BDE mock suppressor, which is the 762 variant, which is, of course, what we're doing here. I'm really proud of how this looks. You could, of course, snazz things up even more by doing paint or Cerakote or customizing it even further. But I think as a starting point, before we get into maybe doing some upgrades in the future, I'm excited to take this out and play with it as I've built it. If you guys have got any ideas of maybe how you'd accessorize it, things that you'd put on, things that you might have left off, other accessories that you might go with, or any ideas for build lists for rifles like the DD5V3, throw them in the comments section. I'm interested to see what you guys come up with. As always, have fun out there. We'll see you on the field.